Hey there, Melissa, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have another layout for the Confessions of a Paper Addict Cut Files design team, and it's our florals release this week. Virginia has released a huge number of cut files. You can see them on Instagram, in the Facebook group, and of course over in the Etsy shop. So I'm using this cut file called Floral Pattern, and I wanted to use it because it just reminded me of a big doily. And so I've cut it on, I think, American Crafts white cardstock, textured cardstock, and I'm using the untextured side. And I have these three photos of Ava. I think they were from last year, and she just loves playing with bubbles. And so what I have here is some Lindy Stamp Gang Magical Rambling Rose Pink powder, and you just mix it with a bit of water. It's very intense, so a little bit goes a long way. You would have seen I didn't even open up the full lid because Ava actually got into this product when I wasn't watching and put powder all over the chair at my desk. So I'm just splattering, and it's quite red, it's quite intense, so in retrospect I probably would have watered it down a bit more, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to be covering this with the cut file anyway, so I'm just checking how it looks. And then I wanted to put a bit more of that colour behind the two areas where the photos, or the two groups of photos, will sit. So I'm just checking again and adding a little bit more. And then I love adding white splatters to watercolours, so I thought I'd try it with these powders as well. And I've put that aside to dry, and then just working out what I'm going to do with my photos. So this, I forgot to say I'm using the Happiness collection. Sorry, so confused with all the releases that are coming out. Happiness collection from Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and it's an older scrappery kit. It's not an older collection though. I think it was their previous one to their recent one. And so I'm just going through, and my idea was to have some florals clustered around each of my photo areas. And I actually love how that frame, that circular frame, looked on my photo, but I think because I've already got the circular element of the cut file, I decided to use this little frame. And if you know me, you know I struggle with frames, so anytime I can get a frame onto a layout, it's a good thing. So just sticking this down with double-sided tape. I decided to go with double-sided tape because it fit perfectly on the edges of the frame, especially the three thinner edges. So Ava has seen this layout, and lately we've been trying to teach her that some of the photos where she sees her siblings, and obviously my husband and I, and then she sees me holding a baby, we've been trying to teach her that the baby is her. And so in this one, I mean, she's not a baby, but she's still a lot younger than she is now. She actually realised that it was her straight away without me having to tell her, which was pretty cute. And she also looked at the layout and said bubbles. And what it is one of those big wands that you dip into a big tube of bubble mix. And she went through a stage of just being obsessed with bubbles and bubble mix. And so, of course, I got to get some snaps because she always looks so happy playing with them. So I'm just popping this up on some foam. And then those papers that I had just gone through were cards that had been cut and came with the scrappery kit. And so all they are is 6x6 papers that have been cut down. And I love that paper there. That's my favourite paper in the whole kit, or even in the collection, I should say. And I've just cut it. If you've watched one of my recent videos, I can't remember which one because I've been doing a lot for September, but I had the same instance where I decided would I keep it as a rectangle or cut it around my two photos, and I decided to cut it around my two photos. So, in saying all of that about how much I love the paper, you only see a hint of it in this layout. So just checking my cardstock, pattern paper, and it's dry. Those powders, they don't dry as quick as watercolours, probably because they're a bit more saturated, but a bit of time has passed here, so I'm going to go ahead and stick this down. So I'm just using glossy accents in this little quilling glue bottle. And you've got to be quick. It's not glossy accents, it is close to my heart's version of glossy accents, so it's liquid glass. And if you're using liquid glass, you've got to be really quick because it dries so quickly. So I don't think I would have put glue on every single part of the cut file because I am going to be covering it with some elements. And I also decided that I would hand stitch all the daisies. So probably a bit of a crazy idea. I'm glad I didn't pierce the entire cut file, but I had a sore thumb, and then the stitching of the daisies caused my thumb to be even more sore. I had some problems stitching because I was using an embroidery needle, and the cut file is quite thin, and I found that it was making too big a hole, and when you pull the thread through, it was ripping some parts of the cut file. So all I did was change it out to a different needle, which made my thumb injury even worse. So this is just a little discussion about what to do if you get a sore thumb when you're stitching. What I did was I used a thimble. I really wanted a rubber thimble, but I couldn't find any in Queenstown where I live. But my husband actually went to Spotlight, grabbed a pack of thimbles, and there was a metal one and a plastic one, and it worked fine. And actually it made the stitching even quicker. So what I'm doing here is, because I don't want to pierce and stitch every single daisy, I'm just marking where my 3 photos will sit, and I'm marking in a bit from the photo so that I can stitch slightly under the photo. So now I think there was a bit of adhesive on my little piercing tool, so I cleaned that off, and I'm just showing you some of the piercing. And you would actually want to have your mixed media dry before you do this, or it's going to cause it's going to make your cut file wet and then make the piercing even more difficult. So, yeah, I don't know why it made it quicker with the thimble on, but it certainly did. And I also gave my thumb a rest for 24 hours, which meant that I had to get this done real quickly, really, really super quick. So I don't know why I've left all of that piercing in, but anyway, you get the idea. And yep, that's how I store the threads that I'm using, that I mostly use, just in a little plastic bag. I shove them in. No, it's not tidy, but it doesn't bother me. It's the quickest way for me to find the colour that I want. So I always tie a little knot on the back, and I also tie a knot when I get to finishing. Sometimes I will use washi tape as well to just adhere the end of the thread. And here is super speedy stitching. I wish I was this quick in real life as well. I'm not going to show you too much of this, just a little bit so that you see. So I just turn the paper over, and I think the problem comes is when you push the needle up with your thumb, and that's how I made the injury, I guess, that I had on my thumb. I made it even worse. So you've got to be really careful stitching a thin cut file. You also have to be careful when you're piercing your holes to try and get them in the middle of the cut file. There were some instances where the cut file did rip, and what I did there was I would just use some of my liquid adhesive to glue it back down, and then wait for it to dry and then stitch. So you can't tell by looking at it that some of them were ripped. The stitching, I guess, hides it. But I'm really happy with the subtle texture that it adds, and I think it adds a little bit more to the cut file than me just gluing it down. So I somehow didn't record some of the adhering of the florals and butterflies, but you didn't really miss too much. These little bits I'm placing under my photo are offcuts from the 2 florals that I've added to the 2 photos. And now I'm just deciding what else to add as an embellishment. I love this Happy Times little piece. It comes from the ephemera pack. There's also in this collection a pack of words that you could use to build titles in the same script. So I'm adding some of these little clear stickers. There are these little doodles that I think look really sweet, quite subtle, and just tucking them near the florals or behind the photo. And adding 3 of those little hearts as well, and a 3rd butterfly. I did think about adding a 4th butterfly, but I think it would have been too much. I also thought about adding some leaves underneath those little pieces of floral that I've cut, but that was also too much. And here are the words that I was talking about. They're just in a cardstock weight, and they're gorgeous. I really need to use up this kit because it is so stunning. So all I do is just go through and think, what words could I make work for my title. I've been finding lately a lot of my titles are pretty simple. They're getting a bit repetitive, especially with my girls, because it's very easy to put lovely you or beautiful you. And so that is probably why I decided to go with the happy times. I also liked it because it didn't span the entire width between my two clusters like everything else seems to do here. And I didn't want to take up too much real estate. I really wanted to let that cut file shine, and I certainly wanted to let the stitching be seen after all the effort of doing it. So here I've made the decision to go with happy times, and I'm just using these scrapbook adhesive, foam adhesive, dimensional adhesive, and I love them. I need to get some more. So just having it floating really between the two. And I have 3 of the flare badges left from the collection, and I'm going to use 2 of them on this layout. I think that one says good vibes, and then the happy snaps is perfect for a multi-photo layout. So the other thing I was going to say is that if you want to make a multi-photo layout, printing 1 photo big and 2 smaller ones is a good way to draw attention to your main photo, but also to feature 2 smaller photos or even more that help tell the story. So this is the cardstock sticker sheet, and I've gone with that happy little moments. And the other one I can't quite see, fun day or full, I think it says fun day or full with joy or something like that. And then just adding a couple of the hearts as well. So loving how this is looking now. It's nearly done. I think I've mentioned before that I just decide to stop embellishing when I think I've added enough. So in retrospect, I probably could have added some sequins to this, but I do like the look of those little heart stickers just scattered near my photos as well. So adding my journaling, talking about her love for bubbles, and I can't actually remember what else I wrote. You'll be able to read it anyway. And what is my final touch is just to add this Studio Calico exclusive to a Studio Calico kit ink. It's a mini little Mr. Huey's, and I love it, and I'm going to run out of it soon because I've been using it a lot lately. And I've been trying to hold back on my splatters and not go too crazy with them because I quite like the look that less is more when it comes to splatters. And then I added another little heart, and that's my final layout. So make sure you head on over to the Etsy store. I have a link below, and I have the link on the last slide here as well. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.